Thank you, Kate. What an amazing group of people, and so nice to see so many new faces today. As Kate said, I started 2 weeks into lockdown, so I was at the 100 Club event, met a few people there, yeah, what a time to start. And as has been the case for all of us, many of the plans that I came here with went straight out of the window in those first few weeks and beyond. We can't talk about where we are today without discussing COVID-19, which has brought huge risks both to communities across Leeds and the charitable organisations that serve them. So for us as a funder, a fundraiser and a partner, we felt that we really needed to act in that time. So a huge amount of the team's focus has been on making sure that we can move resources, whether they're from national funds or our 100 Club members or other donors or the public actually, to where they need to get as efficiently as possible. And to give you a sense of the scale of that, across Leeds, Bradford and Wakefield since the start of COVID-19, we've leveraged £3.5 million and we've distributed £500,000 of that to more than 60 organisations within the first 3 weeks of lockdown, with a lot more flowing steadily since then. It was really important to us at that time to think about that funding going out to communities where it was needed in the short term, but also that a short-term response is only the start of the story, really. And I've been reflecting on the fact that the virus poses a threat to public health, and that threat, while now reduced, is by no means eliminated, but actually the economic impact of the lockdown is one of the really important things that we can focus on as a community foundation as well. Early indications are that West Yorkshire will be hit really hard, and for example, last month the number of people claiming universal credit across Leeds city region increased by 62%, which, to use the word that we use for all sorts of things now, was unprecedented. And as the furlough scheme winds down, that will only become worse. And if we look at what's happening with the voluntary sector, Third Sector Leeds, a partnership that we're part of, has found that 3 in 5 charitable organisations feel that they may not survive for longer than 6 months because of the current situation. And very few of those organisations used the furlough scheme because, of course, at the time it was available, their support was really needed by all of us in the community. And small organisations and those dependent on traded income are particularly vulnerable. So from the start, we wanted to work on the basis that the path through COVID-19 would be long and precarious, and that we needed to really think about supporting charitable organisations for the long term. And our close relationship with grassroots organisations is what has allowed us to channel funds directly to the front line in ways that lots of other funders haven't, which we've been really grateful to be able to do, and really grateful that Ali and Emma will talk about some of their experiences today receiving the funding. So on the next phase of what we've been doing is continuing to focus on resilience, and that's essentially, it's a word that's used a lot, but what we mean by that is the long-term viability of the sector across Leeds. So we've learned from conversations we've had with organisations that have received our funding, that we really need to focus on both urgent gaps in cash flow that are there for organisations, but also longer term planning and development to actually cover the costs of adapting operating and funding models to survive in the future. And we're actively encouraging groups to spend money on management time and on adapting to the new normal. And we also felt it was really important to fund those that were not necessarily best at writing application forms, and not necessarily those who got their application together quickest. So we worked with an advisory group from other funders, from services across the city and from the community, to build a portfolio of grants that will support groups who are representative of all aspects of our great city. So we've made awards to a wide range of organisations through our Resilience Fund, and they include organisations supporting people with mental health issues, with long-term conditions, with physical and learning disabilities, and they include organisations supporting adults with multiple and complex needs, people on benefits and low income, people who are isolated and lonely, including older people, people at risk of suicide, children who are under 4 and expectant mothers, young people who are particularly affected by the economic crisis and the chance of getting into employment, families on child protection plans, refugee and asylum seekers, and local families and residents experiencing poverty in some of the most deprived neighbourhoods in Leeds. So a huge range of awards made there, and those organisations are providing valuable support in lots of different ways as well to reduce inequalities. So they might be providing art and creative activity, they might be providing transport to connect older people up to services or to use the internet in different ways. There might be social opportunities online for those who are isolated, providing food, essential items, practical help, employment opportunities. The list goes on and on and on in terms of how organisations are adapting and being creative to respond to the need out there. And it really is adapting. It's very rare that I speak to an organisation who's doing exactly what they were doing before the crisis, and that takes ingenuity and creativity, but it also takes money. And so thanks to the generous support from many of you and others, we're starting to get some really fantastic feedback about the Resilience Fund and what it's been able to achieve. So just to give you a sense from the first round of grants that we've given out of that, 100% of organisations from the first round believe that they will have been helped to respond to the impact of the lockdown and be in a better position to resume their activity as it was, or to fulfil their charitable aims in a completely different way post-COVID. And 78% of those organisations said they felt they would be able to keep running, with some of them confident that they could survive in the longer term because of this funding. And we're going to be keeping a close eye on that and speaking to organisations, making sure that we understand what's happening and that we can adapt and respond with our funding to bring to life what organisations need. And I just wanted to share with you one of the comments that's come through to us from groups, and there are many more like this, but one of our organisations has said that covering our staff costs for day-to-day delivery is giving our project manager the space and time to apply for funding once the emergency support lessens, without drawing on our 3 months reserves and potentially making us have to close down before new income streams are more certain. And it really is quite unusual in the funding sector for organisations to have funding that is about organisational development and thinking and management time rather than only project delivery. So we're very keen as an organisation to make sure that we learn from the way that we've been doing things through the Resilience Fund. We know that groups have really appreciated us taking the time to build relationships with them ahead of application stage, and we want to find ways to continue to do this and really build on the strong relationships that we have as a community foundation across the city with groups. And we're seeing the funding round that we're completing as a pilot to inform our Leeds Fund grants as we move forward. So they will be focusing on long-term funding for core costs and for linking groups in with some of the business support that they need to continue adapting. So please watch this space for more ways that you can get involved in that as things move forward for us as well. And just a huge thank you to everybody on the call for their support.